Morning guys, David here from Sunshine Acres. Today we are changing the hydraulic oil in an XC1100. There are some logistical issues you need to consider. One is there's over 30 something litres in here. So most oil pans that you can buy are 15 litres at the most. So I will be extracting some of the oil, at least 25 or so litres, before I crack the bung here on the bottom. In order to do that, I will remove this screen. It's just some Allen keys. It's not a hard job. The second logistical problem you have is the screen is in down here. I know some of you are going to complain that I have the arms in the up position because you think that there will be excess fluid in here. With the arms retracted, the only amount of fluid that is different, because this is a push-pull, is the volume of this, which is R squared times the length. My estimate is it's a litre, maybe a litre and a half. I'm not going to do the maths. You can if you want. Remember, this comes with a quality Kubota hydraulic oil in it, so we're not concerned about getting every last drop out. This is a preventative maintenance change at 50 hours, and the next one is at 500 hours. So it's not super critical, but if you want to do it with this down and all that in your way, you're welcome. Secondly, we have opted for a 68 weight, a HVI 68 weight. The reason is we live in Queensland. It's quite hot here. I went to the Kubota dealer and they even use 68 weight at their dealership in the Sunshine Coast. I've spoken to the Gulf Western rep when I bought this oil. I actually got this directly from the rep, and his recommendation is 68 weight for our climate zone. Again, we could argue about 46, 68 all day. I'm using 68 because this is what the industry standard uses in my area. And that's a personal preference. Anybody that is worried about the oil, I recommend you go to your hydraulic shop and discuss it with them, because climates matter and different changes. So you guys in America with some extreme winters, you might want to use your 46. Here in Australia, it's just fucking hot, right? So we're using a nice 68 weight. So first things first is we'll need to get this cap off. Again, we've removed the side panels because we did the engine oil. You probably don't have to, but I just think it makes life a little easier. Give yourself some good access. I'm actually glad I'm removing this today because it was a little loose, so I get a chance to check them over. Just to make life easier, once I have this loose, like so, I'll just screw that cap on. This can just sit over in here to drain. These guys are worth their weight in gold. Well, obviously not, because gold's like fucking 5,000 an ounce, so we probably wouldn't even need to be doing this if this was worth its weight in gold, but you get the idea. Pretty simple, and just pumping. Make sure we've got a seal on, and away it goes. You can see it filling up in there now. And once you've got a bit of pressure in, it'll just keep sucking away. So you can see the screen is in here, and it's extremely difficult to get at. So what I have chosen to do today is, you can't get pliers on there, is a pry bar with the angle seems to work well, and you can get in here, and we've already given it a little loosen, and we can slowly work our way around like so. Not ideal, but that's the way it is. Once you've got it loose, you can use an Allen key, and I'll show you that little trick a bit later. So the Allen key, a bigger one than this, will fit into these cross hatches, which I'll show you when I remove the cap and out. Obviously, there's going to be some linkage in there as well. Our hydraulic filter up here is quite easy to replace. It's not horrendous. A bit stiffer than I thought. You know, probably a socket would be easier than this. I do have a socket there. I just didn't walk over to get it, because then I've got to find some other bits. And there's our remaining oil coming out. Remember, it's not actually super critical that you change the oil at the 50-hour mark. It's more important that you do the filters. But in order to get that screen out underneath there, if you wanted to do that at the 50-hour mark, you would have to drain the tank anyway, because unlike other models where it is in on the top, that one is in. Again, feels nice and clean. It doesn't feel burnt. It's nice, good condition. Remember, the owner of this machine has absolutely driven it like a rental. It has been thrashed every single time it goes out. We will just put that back on. Let's give that a bit of a clean. Use the oil to wash it down. And the last thing we want to do is fucking cross thread this one. We're just going to be extra careful. There we go. I didn't really like the thread on that, to be honest. Yep. So now we're going to attack the hardest part. Next, we've got most of the oil out. We're going to try and attack this screen filter in here. We have stuffed a rag in there. I think it may get in the way. but let's just see how we go. Now, some of you are probably asking why I'm using a rubber mallet. It's because I don't want to destroy my friend's pry bar. Starting to go. This thing with the angle actually works out really well. Look, we were going to use a piece of angle iron. There's all sorts of options available to you. So there's our first mark. We know we've now done a full rotation. It's still not easy enough to do by hand. The screen, please by all means comment in the comments below and have a go at me about the whole no gloves thing. I'm ready for it. Now there is a little burr on there I can feel, but I'm a glutton for punishment. Turning, certainly no shortage of thread. All right, we're finally loose. And as I predicted, my rag is actually a hindrance, not a help. So I think there is very little option but to just spill some in the bottom of the machine and probably pressure washer it out later. I think we will remove our cap and just set it off to the side there, and we can graciously get our screen out. Now we did collect a bit of dirt on that coming out, so I'm going to clean the bottom of that down there so that we don't get any more in there. So that's removed. Remember, this is only a screen. You may not need to do this at your 50-hour service, but I would recommend it because this is where the shit's going to sit. All right. There's not too much of a leak in there. We've probably gotten a couple of 100 mils. Maybe a thinner rag. That big rag was a bit much. That's probably what I will put in there now, is this nice little one. Let's see if we can get this red cap out of here. She's a nasty one, I tell you. You know what this reminds me of? Tetris. I don't think I want to do that, to be honest. Maybe I can bring it up through here. Yep. So that's probably the go. Bring it up through the side there. We do just want to be able to clean this up and inspect our seal. So like I said, from hammering it there, you can just get these little burrs. So once again, that's why I would suggest that you wear gloves. I want to go home and have something to complain about. So that's nicely done in there. I think I'll just sit this in here like so. And that's more to protect the new filter screen that's going to go in. Our next mission is this guy here. Now, I don't believe for 1 minute I can get that off. So we're going to use some big ass fuckers here, and that is on pretty tight. So I'm going to pause the video here and I'm going to struggle with this. When I have a solution, I'll come back and I'll show you what I've worked out. This doesn't look very gracious at all. Probably need our filter tool, but if it's on anywhere like the other filters, it's going to be a battle. After this change, the next change shouldn't be so hard, but it is in 500 hours, so it's only something you have to do so often. Yeah, so full disclosure, we use the big guys to get in there. Probably a nice oil puller tool if you had them available. The one I've got is a bit smaller. Okay, so before we remove that filter, we're just going to put this guy back in here, like so. Let's just make sure we've lined up our gasket nicely. I probably just want to pre-line that up, like so. Okay, so I like to go 1, 2, 3, 4 rather than just going around in a circle. So again, we're just going to bring them up to their tight, bring them up, and then on this one here, I think we'll just do a quarter turn. We don't want to prolapse that seal, so just there. That feels like it's about snug. Again, I think we're using a quarter to a 90-degree turn on this to there. Yeah, it's a bit over a quarter, so that's good there. I'm just going to put that on there to stop any contamination. Okay, so now we're going to replace this filter here. There is going to be some linkage. I do have this little one over here. I don't know if that'll catch much. We do have a rag under here as well. So let's just get this in. I'm hoping also that this doesn't get in the way. That little lumpy bit will be in the way. Look at that. They did a really nice job here. They cut that zip tie with a nice little sharp edge just in the way. So that's good. That's what I recommend everyone do with zip ties. So here comes our filter. Okay, that down there. Get on up in there. Pre-oil our seal. Do you know what? It's a fucking different thread. That's why they've given us a whole housing. So, thanks guys. You've sent us out on a bum steer. It looks like we're going to town to get a filter. I wasn't expecting that. They did supply one of these whole housings. We can replace the whole thing. I don't know if I want to do that or not. Let's have a look at that. I'll be right back. Okay, so first of all, we have struck a little issue with the oil filter, so we're going to town. We wondered why they supplied this whole entire housing and a filter. I think we know now why. Is because the thread size here is different. I don't want to replace this. Yes, that is an option, but let's go to town first and see if we can get a filter. Primarily because there's a lot of different bungs in here. these guys, access up in here. Let's just see if we can get a filter and make life a little bit easier. So first we're going to put this in. Again, we need to practice our yoga. There's no upside or downside. This is just a straight out screen. So in here, our cap, which remember we pulled in through this side over here because it was the easiest. And then around in here, like so. Then we just want to seat that in. So the rag in here has helped a lot to keep this clean. Just push it on to the cap and then you can get it in and we can, again, this is the last thing you want to fucking cross thread, right? So just absolutely take your time doing this or else you are going to be replacing this whole housing. And honestly, I don't think that looks like a good job. It's not something I would do in a hurry. Okay, so it's gotten a bit dirty. I don't want to contaminate the thread, so I'm just going to probably a two-hander. Now you could probably use an Allen key in here, like so. So that's my idea, is to do that. And that works actually. So what you can do is just by flipping the Allen key up and over, a bit like how you would use a crescent wrench. So just by flipping it upside down and back to front, I can get a nice little bit of leverage in there. An Allen key I have found works really great. Okay. We're getting close. Now we'll probably use the pry bar to just give this a little bit of a hit because there is a bit of pressure on these guys, although it should be a non-pressure side return. But in my previous experience has shown me that they can leak if they're not on really tight. I'm actually getting some pretty good weight on this. This is one of the few circumstances where I probably would throw the whole torque thing out the window and just put some serious fucking weight into it. There's a lot of thread for it to grip. There's not a lot of risk of it cross-threading. Not with my strength and not that amount of rip thread. That's pretty tight. We will find out if that leaks. Anyway, we will be back after we've been to town to see if we can get a filter that fits before we have to replace the whole housing. We'll be back shortly. Hey guys, so as you know, there was a bit of a problem with the oil filter, the hydraulic filter. They sent out this as the replacement with a whole new housing and we wondered why. So it turns out that the thread is different on here to this. So the option would have to be to replace this entire housing, which I didn't want to do because there could be some difference in sizing, and I'm assuming these are the same thread, but that's not a given. And you know, you might need gaskets or seals and stuff like that. So we've been to town and we found this wonderful place called Mr. Filter. Right, you wouldn't believe it, but he had something there. So we were fortunate enough to get a Chinese-made filter. We will put the part number in the description as well. So something interesting, this is an Italian-made housing and an Italian-made filter. We're not sure what it's off yet, so more research will be needed, but there is a Chinese filter equivalent. It's not as big, but it'll do for now, so we don't have a problem with that. Interesting thing to note is we believe the thread pitch is 24 times 2 millimeter. So that might help you if you have to go on the hunt. So before you go ahead and do your hydraulic oil change, look at what you've got here and make sure you have a spare. We're lucky it's a Saturday here and Mr. Filter is open till 12 o'clock. You cannot believe how lucky we are because your ordinary auto parts store just wouldn't have carried one of these. So here's our Italian-made filter. There's absolutely no part numbers on it. There is a website. I assume maybe you could find it on there, but without a part number, it's pretty bloody hard to find. I think what we will do is look and source one of these and probably give this a change in a couple of months, just so we have the extra size. So just to give you an idea, guys, just slightly different. I'm guessing it's a ½ litre difference. Everything else is the same. Internal construction, thread size, and dish and bowl size in there. I have pre-filled it again. Previously I stated in the video that I like to pre-fill because I was worried about bleeding the line. This is a return line. I realized while we went into town that wasn't overly necessary, but I'm still going to pre-fill it because that's just what I do. So checking this guy out, that's all nice and clean up in there. Let's just give it a nice wipe. That should be all it needs. We will soon find out. Now we're at the stage where we're ready to start putting oil in it. So we'll get that all set up. I don't think you need to watch that. We will jump back on in a minute and you can see how we've gone. Guys, we've finished our hydraulic service. It's taken at least 30 odd litres. In summary, things to consider are making sure you have the right filter and the right thread before you start. By the looks of it, there are two versions of these housings, so you probably do need to make sure that you have the right filter, so that's something to check beforehand. Making sure you can access the filter screen in there. The other thing I have noticed is, if you come around here, I did just notice an access panel in here after we had done that, so that might have been able to be come off to help fill or get your hand inside the tank if you needed to. And this top plate does come off, so neither here nor there, but that's something to note. You might choose, instead of preferring to fill it up, you might choose to want to remove that for there. So yeah, things to consider: how you're going to remove that cap down there, so you'll need the right tools for that, and your oil filter. We'll give this a run and cycle it. We've already given it a quick run, so we probably don't need to show you doing that. And guys, that's basically the first hydraulic service on an XC1100. Probably hasn't gone as smooth as I would have liked. I would have hoped it was just a matter of drain the oil and replace the filters, but lesson learned, and this is something really valuable for you guys too, so just please take note of the brand. So we'll just come in here, you'll see that this is a PNG, this is an Italian made housing, and the other housing that they have supplied is a Chinese housing there. So yeah, something to consider. Have a look at which one you've got as to which oil filter you may need. If they've supplied you with the Italian one and you have the Chinese one, you'll need to find the right filter, or you're replacing this whole job here, which is something I honestly wouldn't really recommend, because there are possibilities of introducing other problems. I would assume that the threads are the same size, but that's not a given, being this is Italian and that's Chinese. These might be imperial, they might be metric. We don't know till we get it apart. That would need to be clarified by the manufacturer, and we didn't have time today. So yeah, thank you guys. I hope you've enjoyed this. I hope it saves you some heartache. We're just going to throw the side covers back on and get into this job. It's taken a few hours longer than necessary, because, you know, obviously that quick 1 hour trip, hour and a half trip into town and back. Don't forget to check out in the comments below, in the description below, for the part numbers. And thank you for all this. If you like this content, like and subscribe. Don't forget to head on over to Mini Skid Steers Down Under and have a look at our files section if you need any resources. Have a great day.